There's a lot of excitement building around the West Virginia Mountaineer basketball program. Coach Huggins and his staff have landed some big-time players this year out of the transfer portal, and they're still looking at some more. We've also had transfer news of guys leaving the program as well that we want to discuss. So let's get ready to talk about it, Mountaineer Nation. My name is Coos.
And my name is Mountaineer Paul.
And we will talk about this stuff right after the intro. What is going on, Mountaineer Nation, college hoops fans? Welcome into another edition of Hoops from the Hills. Mountaineer Paul and myself are joined today by a very special guest, the one and only Keenan Cummings from Rivals. How are you doing, Keenan?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to chat with us for a few minutes.
Yeah, Saturdays are precious in the off season. So.
Absolutely, man. Totally get it.
That makes it all the more better than that you chose to join us today. We really appreciate it.
It does. So real quick, let's dive right in because I know your time is precious, like you said. So let's dive right in. And first thing we want to touch on is West Virginia just recently reached out and had contact. I don't know if they've offered him yet or if he's been on a visit. Maybe you can answer those questions for us. But a player out of the Division II level named R.J Sunahara. Now, this is a player that has connections to the Mountaineer, West Virginia University, let's say. Can you tell us a little bit about R.J Sunahara and what's going on with him and his game a little bit?
Yeah, I think that you look at RJ, he's the name probably sounds familiar to a lot of people out there. The last name, that is. It's because his dad, Reed, is the volleyball coach. His brother, Rex, was a long snapper here at West Virginia, covered him while he was here. He's been here before. He understands the program, understands what West Virginia is all about. It's a fit that really was the least surprising person that West Virginia's contacted really this portal offseason to me. Not necessarily because of need, fit, or anything like that. Just as soon as I saw that name enter the portal, it makes sense. It makes sense for West Virginia's roster, on top of just those connections. He's 6'8". He's a player of the year in Division II last year. Averaged 18 some points a game, 5 some rebounds. He shot 40% from three. So he's a guy that has some flexibility on some pick and pop. He's more athletic than people give him credit for. And I think he's kind of that perfect high energy glue guy. And he plays at the top of their press. So he's more athletic than I think a lot of people give him credit for. And I think that one thing that really makes a fit here is you look at the roster that West Virginia's structured so far and kind of constructed, put together. He is a guy that you'd like to have another 3 or a 4 that can rebound and bring energy. And I think he does both of those things, which it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Usually I wouldn't get too hung up on offering or not at this point. I think it's more when you're contacting people in the portal, you're interested. And then when someone visits, which I don't even necessarily know if he would need to visit, but when someone does visit, that's when it's serious, because these portal guys, they don't waste their time a lot. It's not like a typical recruiting. You have 2, 3, maybe 4 if you're the elite of the elite visits that you'll take. And if you're visiting somewhere, it's a school to circle on the list.
Gotcha. And has he visited?
I do not know formally, but he has been to Morgantown before, obviously.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure like you said, he probably doesn't even need to visit.
Yeah. He's a guy that I wouldn't say he has to come on an official visit to pick West Virginia if that would be the case. If they both decide it's in the best interest, it wouldn't surprise me if it's a deal where, you comfortable here? I'm comfortable here. All right, let's do this thing.
Right.
And he really gives me some strong Gabe Usselboyan vibes. A kid, like you said, that come off the bench, be a glue guy, provide energy without much drop off. Probably be a good candidate to spell Trey Mitchell. At times, he could probably even slide into that 3 spot a little bit and defend the wing. He's really athletic, like you said. I think it'd be a seamless fit. Like you basically covered everything. I love how he plays at the top of the press. Off camera, I'd mentioned that gave me some Nate Adrian vibes, and it does. So that's a player. And Nate Adrian was another guy that really shot a pretty good percentage from three as his career went on. A lot of similarities between those two. So really I want to see this move happen, and I hope it happens. Obviously, there are more names that may make people's eyes pop a little bit, but this is a guy I just watched his tape. I think he's probably pretty underrated. I think he's for sure a Division I player just playing at the Division II level at this point. Obviously, you win the Player of the Year down there. That's the Bevo Francis Award is not easy to get. So I think this is an exciting thing for me just to see a guy come full circle. His brother, things like that have been there. It's a cool thing to see.
The one thing I have against the young man is he dropped 41 points against my alma mater in a game. So, but no, he goes to Nova Southeastern. For those of you who don't know, it's a Division II school, like we mentioned earlier, and he played against Bluefield State, which is right down the road from me. It's where I went to school, so where I graduated from. So, but so I thought that was pretty cool. And Paul sent me a highlight tape of him the other day, and that game was on it. So I'm like, man, that name looks familiar. But anyway, yeah. But so because of that, I think he's a little bit close to my heart for me there.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. I think that when you look for fits, something you always worry about with roster construction in general, in basketball especially, is everybody wants to build a dream team, but there's only one basketball. You got to have guys that are going to buy into roles. Not everybody's going to start. Not everybody's going to play 30 minutes a game. You can't do it. Yes, ideally you would love to have a team where you can just run out hockey style 5-5, and then 3 if you need it, where you can play these guys X amount of minutes. But rotations are key, and I think he's a guy that brings you a lot of positional flexibility, a guy that could step in. Obviously, would understand the culture, would know what the program's about. So I think it's a good fit on a lot of levels. And if West Virginia and he decide to go that route, I don't have any problem with it.
Guys, before we move on, I want to remind you guys where to find Keenan at. He's with Rivals, which is he covers for WestVirginiaSports.com, for Rivals, I should say. Covers recruiting, pretty much anything regarding the Mountaineers. So go check him out on Twitter, interact with him there at Rivals Keenan, and go check him out on the site, WVSports.com. Bell? Nope. Keenan, let's just get your quick thoughts, man. One more quick thing. Just overall, the total overall building of this program and what Bob Huggins has been able to do, and his staff. I've got to give his staff credit as well. What they've been able to do this offseason. What are your overall thoughts on that?
It's really hard to complain so far. You'd have to be really nitpicking to look at some holes in what they've done so far. West Virginia kind of came into this with a plan, and you got to credit Jay Kuntz, over there. He kind of is the engine that makes this thing run, and then, he gets them to campus, and then you've got these facilities, you've got, a Hall of Fame head coach, you've got all these things that you can sell. And now, obviously, in this NIL era, you have some other things that at your arsenal. But, you look at what West Virginia's done. In a normal year, I don't count Jose Perez in this transfer class, but just if you just set him and Omar Silverio, that right there is a great transfer class. Mm-hmm. And those are, you look at the guys they've added after. Kirk Risa was one of the, if not the top point guards in the transfer portal. He's a guy that can distribute the ball. He can shoot the ball. He is pretty much what West Virginia hasn't had for a while.
Right.
Even Deuce McBride, he was a great point guard, but he's probably better off the ball.
Right.
And he's probably better as a 2. This is a guy that
knows
how to run a team, is going to run a team, and then West Virginia's got probably their best rim protector since Sags. There's no probably to it. Their best rim protector since Sags. A guy that's super long, can finish at the rim, athletic, can defend in pick and roll situations. And Jesse Edwards, that's a major pickup. And then Raekwon Battle is kind of that missing piece if you're stirring up some ingredients. He was what they needed. You needed that wing, that 2 guard that can slash and score. He can score off the catch, score off the bounce. He's comfortable scoring contact. Those are the type of guys that is a really good nucleus. And we haven't even mentioned Trey Mitchell, Joe Toussaint. Those count as wins. West Virginia been able to keep those guys around. Right. And then you look at some of the other guys that could be back, maybe like Muhammad Wagyu. You could look at some of the other guys they've got on their roster, James, and up and down. Some of these guys are really exciting for what this team could be by the time the dust settles. And we were just talking earlier about possibly even more additions.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think that there is reason to be excited for this team, obviously. And it's weird, man. It's April. West Virginia didn't go very far in the NCAA tournament, but basketball is at the forefront in Morgantown right now.
It is.
And deservedly so.
It is, absolutely. Do you see I've gotten some comments about, them not being able to gel as a team or whatever because they're all new pieces. I don't necessarily buy into that. And I know Huggins mentioned it with last year's team. Do you think this group will have a harder time, easier time as far as gelling together and building team chemistry?
It's hard to say till they all get together, but they will have. I do believe they're going overseas this year, so that'll help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that always
That's a big
helps.
deal.
That always helps gel a team, and just being around each other will help too. Will it? I do think in West Virginia's favor, at least, the schedule is going to be a little bit easier no matter what happens, because they're not going to have to play round robin. They're not going to have to play just already as difficult of a non-conference schedule on paper. So I think that will help. But this is a veteran team too, guys. It's not like they're taking a bunch of really young transfers and trying to force them together.
Mm-hmm.
These are grown men.
Right.
All these guys are fourth, fifth-year players that have been around the block and understand, they're coming together for one thing, and that's to win. You don't come together like this if you want to get X amount of numbers or X amount of whatever, individual goal you're looking for. You do this to win. And I think it's pretty clear that these guys, that's their focus.
Right.
Trey Mitchell could have played pro ball somewhere. He's coming back to win.
Yep.
It's simple as that. And I think that's going to help them. The age and experience always makes a difference. There's nothing that can make up for experience in either of the major sports.
Right. I agree.
So I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. Jay Kuntz is going to start to get some serious looks, I think, after what he's been able to put together. I think he's on the right track. And it's not going to be too long, probably from now when we're talking about Jay Kuntz leading the program. And I think you're going to point back to this offseason and say, yep, that's where it started. Because even though he's been around for a while, I think this has really probably put his name in the mouths of some really important people. Oh, West Virginia. Because I told Coos, I've told him a few times, never have we been the destination. We get some sideways looks when we sign somebody like, I can remember when we signed Tavon Austin. People were like, really there? Or Gino even. And so when a guy like Raekwon Battle, Jesse Edwards, Kurt Kriisa, all these big name guys start coming in, and we've become a destination point. And like you said, Jay is the engine behind a lot of that. I think he deserves so much credit. Obviously, Hugs does too. This is the culmination of 40 plus years of everything he means to the sport. So there's so much about it that's cool. And I think you couldn't script a better storybook ending for Hugs in his career. Or maybe, even if it's next year after this coming season that he would retire, or whenever that is, but you can't script a better ending for Hugs. West Virginia had a plan with the F1 visas going that route as a program that maybe not have as much money as like Indiana. I saw they spent almost $4 million in NIL already. So obviously I don't know this, but I'm going to guess we don't have that. So was the F1 visas a way for them to kind of get around that? And maybe just because obviously we know these deals were done in other countries. So, and there's a few players on the team you could say that about. Just curious what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think they did have a plan. I don't necessarily think it's what they set out to do. I think it was more kind of those were the best players they thought fit their needs. And obviously they have a way to make it work. It's, kind of wild to me that, you can set and debate, and I've heard back and forth. But for Jesse Edwards himself to come out and say Syracuse had no plan to keep, arguably one of the best centers returning in college basketball is just nuts to me. I mean, just nuts in today's age. It's adapt or die. I mean, it really is. That is college sports now. You don't have to like NIL. You don't have to like the transfer portal. You don't have to like any of that stuff. I don't even like some of it, and I cover it for a living. But if you don't do it, if you don't adapt, you're going to get left behind because other people will. And it's kind of crazy to me to think back, all the people that when this first started, and even Bob himself was reluctant. He admitted he didn't want to do it, didn't like it. everybody kept saying, this transfer portal, it's going to kill Bob Huggins' career, going to kill his career. It might be something that extends it in a way. Just if they continue to be aggressive and have success. Now, obviously, it's got to translate onto the floor. If you're going out and getting these guys, you want to go further than the first round of the NCAA tournament next year. With better players comes higher expectations. So we'll see how it all unfolds, but it's hard to be disappointed with what West Virginia has done this offseason. And a lot of that, you said, goes back to Jay, what he's done over there, and Bob. And it's about embracing what it takes to win in today's college sports. And I think that Ren Baker and West Virginia as a whole understands that, and the Country Roads Trust, which that is the engine that drives it right there. That and the people that donate to that are the people making the most significant differences.
Absolutely. Well said, Keenan. Well, gentlemen, Keenan, we can't thank you enough for coming on once again. Audience, go check out Keenan's work over at WVSports.com. It's the rival site. He covers all recruiting West Virginia, really anything West Virginia, but recruiting. He's a recruiting guru, is what I'll say. But anyway, go check out his work. You can find him on Twitter at RivalsKeenan. Thank you for coming on again, Keenan, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Anytime.
Absolutely. Take care. We're out.